Hello, my name is Emily Rose, and I've been wanting to do this series for a while. I finally decided to go ahead and work up the courage to do this, especially with the Halloween season coming up. So I figured that I would start the series now. All of these stories are true experiences that have happened to me throughout the period of my life. The series I will start basically from my first memories that I can remember of paranormal things happening to myself, and I will go slowly down the timeline up to more recent things. It is up to you completely to believe me, but I'm not going to try too hard to convince you. It's all up to you, the viewer, to to believe my stories. So, starting off, when I was very young, basically when I was born, my family lived in a really old plantation house. One of the owners of the house had actually been Teddy Roosevelt's daughter, and they actually found a painting of her in the attic of the home. The house burnt down later on after my parents had split up, so the house is no longer there. It was in Kentucky, which is where I come from. I no longer live in Kentucky, though. I live in another state. There were, from what I have been told, slave owners there, as well as they found cannonballs and things in the woods next to the house. So it may have been tied to the Civil War. I am not completely sure. So one of the first things I remember happening to me as a child was my mother had a really old doll, probably from the 50s or 60s, and it was one of those dolls that was supposed to be the same height as the child. So it was about 3 or 4 feet tall. Not really that tall to an adult, but it was very tall to me as a child. And it was about the same size as me. And it was one of those dolls that when you laid it down, its eyes closed, and then when you sat it up, its eyes opened. And I remember seeing that doll wink at me. Later on, we bought a trailer to sit next to the house because they were fixing up the house. As I said, very old house. It had a lot wrong with it. And they decided they wanted to completely redo the kitchen, everything, and we couldn't live in the house while this was all being done. So I would go out to play. Every day that doll would be in a different window of the house, even though no one had been in the house that day. And I would sit there and look at it, and it would blink. It would move. There would be times I would be out in front of the house and it would move into the window. Everyone was afraid of that doll, except for my mom, which, hi Mom, she likes really creepy things. So I remember one time cousins coming to visit, and because the house was so creepy and old, they would dare each other to go into that house alone. And I remember a cousin coming out and screaming and crying, and all they could get her to, all she would say is, that doll, that doll, the doll. So I don't ever remember what happened to her in the house, but I knew whatever happened to her happened with that doll. And here is a picture kind of what that doll actually looked like. The second thing that I remember happening to me in that house was, again, we were living in the trailer next to the house, and as you might expect, there was a lot of things in the house kind of packed up and stored away there. And me and my dad, we were going through the house for some reason. I went upstairs, and I went upstairs alone. Sometimes I would wander around the house alone, nobody else in there, except for my dad, who would be in a different part of the house. So I went upstairs, and there was a chest of drawers in front of a very large window. These windows in this house were really big. The ceiling was extremely high, and they were really long windows. So the chest of drawers was in front of the window, and originally on that chest of drawers was a long oval mirror. Well, there was a sheet over that mirror. And I go in the room, and instead of the chest of drawers with the mirror with the sheet on it, there was a person, a shape of a person with a sheet on top of them, completely see-through through the window. There was a tree out front. I could see the tree through this figure. And I just froze. Like, even talking about it, I have goosebumps. I just froze. I didn't know what else to do. And I eventually backed out of the room and got out of there. There was an old root cellar. It was basically, it was like the basement, but they called it a root cellar. It had dirt floor. It was, from what I've been told, very small. And it went off of the kitchen. And I remember that door like slowly opening. Maybe that part wasn't paranormal, I don't know. But I remember just staring down there and like feeling like somebody's telling me to go down there, and I wouldn't do it because it was just so scary. That's not super paranormal or anything, but it's a pretty creepy place. And then the last thing I remember, because I was so young when I lived there, was in the trailer. I was really afraid of my sister's closet. And one day, me and her were in her room. She's like 13 years older than me. We were in her room, and she opened the closet, and it was like a man was behind her clothes. There were bare feet, like men's hairy bare feet, in the bottom of her closet, like someone was sitting, or standing, I mean, behind her clothes. And she seen it too, and we kind of froze there for a second, and then she just shut the door really quick. And years later, I talked to her about what happened, and I said, I remember seeing somebody in your closet. And I might have even seen someone in her closet more than that. But she told me, you know, this is what happened. And that's why you were afraid of my closet. At one point, I shared the room with her, and sometimes I would wake up and the closet door would be open, and I couldn't sleep. Like, I felt like that man in the closet was watching me. And I always felt like there's a man in her closet. So thank you so much for watching this video and listening to my stories. I will have several of these posted up probably once a week. Thanks for watching. Bye.